Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Greatest Glory podcast. Today's topic is myths about Hinduism. Why do I create a podcast about this, and why am I planning to create more about this? Because there's a lot of misunderstanding, and understanding what Hinduism really is will help more people to take advantage of this tremendous a storehouse of knowledge and practical methods of improving their lives. First of all, let's talk about Hinduism as the word. Where did the word Hinduism came from? Name of the religion, which is not even religion in common way of people referring to this, is not even correct. The term Hinduism is not even the name of this system of thought or the way of life. The actual name of it is Sanatana Dharma. Why is it called Sanatana Dharma? And what it means is that Sanatana Dharma means the eternal law. Why? Because the religion or the system of thought that we call Hinduism is not even a man made religion or something like that. It's about the eternal laws of universe, the ways of universe, the way that things work. All the other things that you might even see around it is created by culture. It's not what it means in its core. We have many laws in the universe, starting from the physical laws, like the law of gravity. And this law of gravity applies to everybody, right? There are many other laws, like law of karma, which is highly misunderstood by a lot of people. The law of karma, for example, just means that whatever you do with your mind, speech, and body will come back to you according to your intention or your mindset and emotions that you have at the moment that you are performing those actions. So, Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma is basically about the original system that universe functions through. And where did this came from as a system of thought and thinking that people follow is that in this system there being countless sages that are called the Rishi, and Rishi means a seer. Why is it a seer? Because this person, whether it was a enlightened person with a higher perception or a divine incarnation, channeled and ascribed these teachings, the way that universe work, for people to follow and practice so they can become in alignment with the laws of universe. And there are many other systems that have come out of Hinduism. As a matter of fact, if you go and study this system, you will find the root of many, almost 95% of religions of the world in Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism. Taoism, for example, or Buddhism is also a system that has come out from Hinduism. And Taoism also talks about the Tao, the eternal truth, which includes the laws of universe. So let's talk about the myths. The first one is the myth that people think Hindus worship many gods. Some people say Hindus have 33 million gods or whatever. The truth is that even some of the Hindus themselves, just like any other religious followers, they don't understand the right concept of this. Just like we have the number zero, for example, and then we say, at least in philosophy, that all the numbers have come out of zero. So, in the same way, all the gods and goddesses and divine beings that are discussed in Hinduism are different aspects of one and only God. So Hinduism is a monotheistic religion. It just has explored and introduced more aspects of God. Why? Because when you have a personal image or quality of God introduced to you, you can communicate more efficiently with it. Just like Jesus Christ one time said, if you cannot love the human that you see, how can you love the God that you cannot see? And even in the sacred scripture of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, an incarnation of divinity, says that the path of unknown or the path of unmanifest is very difficult, because how can you communicate with something which you cannot even articulate, think about? What is that thing that you cannot think about? It's the origin of universe and origin of all gods and all beings. It's called Brahman. Don't mistake that with Brahma, which is the creator and still the same in a sense. But when we use the term Brahman, we are talking about the source of everything, which itself cannot be defined. If it could be defined, then it could be limited again. So all the gods and goddesses are different personifications of the same Brahman. And this Brahman has many, many names in Hinduism. The two of the more common names is Brahman, Shiva, and Shiva has many aspects, and Shiva is not just a person sitting in meditation. The highest aspect of Shiva is also called Param Shiva. And again, in the goddess worshippers, also known as Shakta tradition or Shakti tradition, they personify God as feminine, motherly, but they also consider the highest aspect of the goddess as different names, like, for example, Lalitambika, like Mahakali. So Hinduism is a very, very complex and advanced system of explaining the universe, and you cannot even properly understand it. When I say you can, I mean me and you, just by studying about it. You need to study and practice to have an experience of divinity within yourself. So this divinity, Brahman, is the same substratum of the whole universe that exists within everything and everyone. And it's been said that only human beings can realize and experience this. Again, another term for Brahman is also Paramatman. Basically means the transcendental soul of universe. But we also call that Paramatman when it comes into a limited human being, Atman. Why we call it like that is because the same truth exists within you also, but because of the veil of ignorance, Maya, illusion, you think you are separate from God. And Jesus talked about this a lot, and very few understand what it means that he said, I am one with my Father, with my Heavenly Father, or you are all gods, quoted from Old Testament, and so many other things. And even more than that is discussed in some of the Gnostic Bibles, which the official church doesn't recognize. Myth number 2 is that Hindus worship idols, something which followers of Abrahamic religions highly disregard and hate and think it's a great sin. It is only because of misunderstanding that this happens. Hindus, at least the ones that are aware, as far as I know, even the common person, naive person, doesn't think that this statue is God. They use images, geometrical shapes or forms, also known as yantras, to communicate in a more focused way. as far as reality of any religion is concerned, the religion is actually not about God. The religion is about human beings. It's all about how you communicate with God. And in Hinduism, there are also two paths, actually many paths, but two main paths. One is worshiping God with form, which is called Saguna Brahman, which means the ultimate reality within form. And then Nirguna Brahman, which means the ultimate reality without any qualities, which cannot be comprehended or discussed. So the idols of many, many different forms of God are also consecrated, if it's done right in the right tradition, with some divine energies by a complex process which is called prana pratishta, which basically means infusing life into a lifeless object. And this also has a complex science and needs to be done in the right way. And we don't also mean that you just go and create any image and worship it. It needs to be done in the right way also. But ultimately, I give you an example. There was a great Sufi saint which was praying for a long time to experience God, rather mechanically and without devotion. And one time he enters into a trance state of meditative state, and then he sees a person sitting in an idol house and calling an idol in Arabic, says Ya Sanam, which means oh my idol, oh my idol. And then he noticed God is responding through that idol to this person as saying Labbaik, which means yes, I'm here for you. This person was amazed as a person with kind of Muslim background, not believing in those things. And I was like, God, I've been worshiping you for so many years and you're not responding to me. And this guy is worshiping an idol and you're responding to this person. And God spoke to him and said, this person is worshiping me with love and devotion. You've been worshiping me in a heartless way, in a mechanical way. Even Rumi has an amazing story about this. It's called Moses and the Shepherd, where he narrates a story where the Jewish prophet Moses sees a shepherd praying to God without knowing anything about religion and talking to God like a lover and beloved relationship, very intimate way, very informally, saying things like, oh God, if I see you, I will take care of you, I will comb your hair, and things like that. And Moses was furious, coming from that understanding of Judaism. You need to worship God through this system, bow down like this, say this prayer, refer to God as your holiness, whatever. And he tells that to this shepherd, and shepherd becomes really heartbroken and runs away. And then God speaks to Moses and says, why did you separate my human from me? You came here to connect people, not to disconnect them. It's a very beautiful story. So in Hinduism also, God is worshipped in countless forms. Some people worship God as mother, some as father, some as their brother or sister, some as their child, some as animals. This is a misunderstanding to think if you refer to God as a baby or an animal, it's a disrespecting God. It's not. It's just understanding that God is in everything. And ultimately, as I said, religion is about yourself. It's about helping you understand and see God within everything. You know, in Abrahamic religions, whether Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, this is also being discussed in many, many different ways. That you need to get to that experience of divinity, God, to see God in everything. That's the ultimate goal of religion as far as the path of devotion and worshiping God is concerned. And there are other paths that don't even directly concern with that concept of God in Hinduism. So again, to wrap up, Hindus don't worship idols. They use a specific science to consecrate objects and meditate on them to make their minds focused, because if your mind is not focused on one thing, it's almost impossible for you to have an experience of divinity. Myth number 3 is that the caste system that exists in India and existed more in the past is a religious thing. It's not. It's a man-made thing. It's a product of social distortion of religious teachings, where they had and almost have today these four castes, that some people are priests and the lowest part are the unclean people and whatever is being said. And I don't even see that worth talking much about it because it's a pure nonsense. The next myth is Hindus worship cows. Yeah, maybe some Hindus, they also see the cow as a manifestation of divinity. But in reality, in Hinduism, they don't worship cow. They see the cow as a symbol of purity and gentleness and non-violence, and also the divine feminine. Why? Because the cow is nurturing, and we use them in many different ways. And that brings me to the next myth, that all Hindus are vegetarian and Hinduism says everybody must be vegetarian. That's not correct. There are many paths in Hinduism, and for some people, eating animal flesh is even recommended in different systems of Hinduism. Next myth, Hinduism is one system and it has one specific path. It's not correct. Hinduism, as far as today's Hinduism, the system that is described, is concerned, it has 6 different systems of philosophy within it. A few of them are, for example, yoga, Buddhism. There are other things like Sankhya, and each one have different philosophies and approaches toward getting closer to your true nature, divine nature. But I believe at the core, they are all talking about the same thing. For example, in Buddhism, most people's understanding is that Buddhists don't believe in God. And again, that's also a very philosophical concept. I don't believe in that. They just describe the ultimate reality of universe in a different way. And Buddha's teaching was about bringing a revolution to clean out the misunderstandings that existed at that time. And that's why he brought that concept that there is no self, there is no God. But it doesn't have a superficial, on the surface meaning as you think, oh, he said, no, there is no God. It has a much more complex and deeper philosophy, which is outside of this discussion today. So I am going to move to the next topic. The next myth is Hindus have one scripture. Actually, Hindus have hundreds, maybe thousands of scriptures. It's amazing that in this land for thousands of years, there have been thousands of enlightened, highly evolved people that it might take one a lifetime or even multiple lifetimes to even study a small portion of such a great saints and people, enlightened people, evolved people that have channeled the divine messages for the upliftment and salvation of human beings. There are many, many scriptures in Hinduism talking about different aspects of reality and different systems and techniques to approach the reality. The next myth is Hindus believe in hellfire as eternal damnation. Hindus believe in existence of the subtle or other worlds, spirit worlds, let's say. But unlike some religions, they don't believe that you're going to get into a permanent state of suffering and hell. They see the different worlds, which I believe in many ways is actually a symbolic statement for your inner experience of life as a temporary state, just like when you go and you're dreaming and you're having a nightmare, it's a temporary state. And even as dreaming, even in terms of psychology, you need to have that experience in your dream. It's a kind of cleansing of your thoughts. Your brain is going to explode if you don't dream for multiple days, unless you are super meditative, because those dreams are your own thoughts and emotions coming up to be released. So, in the same way, the other words are also a symbol of the temporary states. And that brings me to the next myth, which is the belief that the goal of life or afterlife is to be born in a higher realm or heaven or going to hell or whatever. Again, that's not true. The ultimate goal of human life is to become free from suffering, which includes the cycle of reincarnation. And this reincarnation, because of misunderstanding and modification of religious teachings, is a bit wiped out of Abrahamic religions. And this actually been explained in many books and traditions in Sufism and so on, saying that it was removed because of misunderstanding of people, and maybe even because people thought, oh, we still have time to do whatever we want. That's my opinion, by the way. But the ultimate goal is freedom from cycle of reincarnation, which is again a reality that human beings grow, do things, and are reborn until they achieve that state of evolution that they become free of being reborn. And again, I'm talking about my own experience and understanding. Everybody has their own opinion, but as you study about it, you will become more knowledgeable and understanding better. And there have been many books written on reincarnation, even with evidence. You can go read those books and you will be amazed that there have been even evidence. For example, one person was born, some kids, they talked about their past lives and they referred to some place, for example, that they were killed in their past life. And they went and dig that place and found the body. And there are many, many examples like that. And if you get really advanced in your state of consciousness, like many of the sages, like Buddha, for example, has talked about many of his past lives. You can also see some of your past lives. Just like you can remember a thought from your childhood, you can also remember something that happened to you in your past lives. But that's not even the goal. And as far as I see, no spiritual teacher even encourages that. Even Buddha never talked about it in terms of saying it's true or not or things like that, because he was against allowing people to get sidetracked by these things. These things are not really a spirituality. The spirituality is here and now, and it's an experience of life and becoming more aware and conscious. The next one is Tantra, highly misunderstood in the West. People think Tantra is about sex. Very unfortunate that a lot of such misunderstandings exist. Tantra is a system for systematically approach God. And Tantra uses many, many, many different things as a means to even use the lower things in life, including even sex or very basic experiences of life, to help you transcend them. If you want to understand why Tantra is not about sex, and even less than a percentage of tantric teachings, which is very esoteric and taught by very special advanced masters to a specific students. It's not the type of Tantra that you see people teach on internet and YouTube. And I'm not saying all of them are wrong. Maybe a very small percentage of them, they have right understanding. But I give you an example to understand why the whole concept of Tantra as sex is wrong in the Western world, especially. In the tantric path of using sexual energy to really awaken your energies and get a divine experience, you need to become so eligible and so advanced in that path that you don't even seek sex. You don't even seek pleasure. But you see all the time, all of these Tantra teachers, they are promoting Tantra as a way to experience more pleasure, or converting your sexual physical pleasure to some sort of more intense pleasure. But if you start with that mindset that, oh, I'm going to do Tantra so I can have better sex and have more pleasure, then you put your first step in the wrong direction. Again, very, very vast and complex system. And I'm going to move to the next myth. The next myth is that Hindus worship nature spirits, trees, animals as different gods. This is a misunderstanding again. Hindus see everything as manifestation of God. And you know what? I keep disliking saying Hindus do that, just like it's wrong to say Muslims are like that. Because majority of people who follow any religion, they don't have a perfect understanding of it. So I cannot say Hindus are doing the right thing or wrong thing or whatever. I can say Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism is the path that sees everything and introduces everything as a manifestation of God, including yourself. And if God wasn't within yourself, which is explained in all of religions, including Abrahamic religions, like in Islam, they say God is closer to you than the vein on your neck. And this is explained in all of the traditions. If God was a separate thing from you somewhere in heavens, then you could not experience God as the ultimate nature. No matter how much I get to know you, I am still separate from you. Then I cannot realize you completely unless me and you are really one, which is the message of all religions. As a matter of fact, for example, the common misunderstanding in Islam when they say there is no God but Allah, La ilaha illallah, that's why what they say. It doesn't mean that only this name of God is God and the other concepts of God are wrong. It actually means there is nothing but God. And this has been explained in modern physics, quantum physics, and so many other things, which is not my expertise, as saying the whole universe is one energy. The whole universe is one. So in Sufism, instead, they say, instead of saying La ilaha illallah, which means there is no God but Allah, they say there is a zikr or a mantra. They say Allah, Allah, Allahu, Ya man laysa illahu, which means he's the ultimate, he is the ultimate. There is nothing but him. And maybe in Sufism, this concept of oneness and unity has been explained even more beautifully than Hinduism. And that's a limited opinion, but it's a very dominant concept. The Sufis believe that I don't really exist. What is the I that doesn't really exist? And all the yogic Hindu traditions also talk about this. It's the limited identity, the limited self or ego that doesn't exist. So when they say nothing exists but him or her or it or whatever, they're really talking about you are also in reality him. If you want to understand this in the most beautiful way, then study Vedanta or Advaita Vedanta, which talks extensively and systematically about this, explaining that there is only one self, which is the universal self. What we think we are, it's but an illusion. And the ultimate goal is to experience this reality within yourself. I want to keep this podcast short, and hopefully in future, I want to create many more systematic explanations of Sanatana Dharma and yoga and the ways for studying your true nature and approaching your divine nature and experiencing more freedom, more harmony, more balance in life. Thank you so much for listening. May you realize the ultimate truth within yourself without attaching to the concepts.